Good morning and welcome to this webinar on mediation and how to teach it online. We're just waiting before we begin for the attendees to join. It can take a few seconds for this to happen, so we won't begin properly until we've got the more attendees in. And I can still see people coming to join us, so I'm afraid there'll just be a few more seconds as we wait for the number of people to hit its peak, which I think we're hitting now. And so I think I may begin. Well, thank you for coming today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this webinar on how to teach mediation with Letizia Cinganotto. Letizia is a full-time researcher in Dire in Italy. She holds a BA in Foreign Languages, an MA in ELT and e-learning, and a PhD in Applied Linguistics. She's also experienced in professional development for teachers, teacher trainers, and head teachers. And she has worked on a number of working groups across languages and scientific committees and cooperates with the CFR on specific projects. So Letizia is about to begin the presentation. There will be time for questions at the end. So if you do have a question, please put it into the chat, the question and answer area, and Letizia hopefully can answer that at the end. But with that, I'll leave you in her hands. Over to you, Letizia.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for this introduction. And of course, thank to Pearson for this invitation. It's a great privilege and honor for me to be here with you today to discuss mediation. Hello, everybody I can see a lot of participants. So thank you for being here today, this morning or afternoon, according to your time zone. Thank you very much. So this is me. I'm a researcher in Italy. Among my research areas, language learning, CLIL, and of course, mediation is part of the language issues. I cooperate, yes, with different committees, different working groups at national and international level, especially with the European Commission, with the Council of Europe, and also in particular with the CML, which is the European Center for Modern Languages in Graz, the institution of the Council of Europe working with languages, plurilingualism, and I'm a member of the consultancy team for the Pluraliteracies project. I had the honor to cooperate with the group, with the experts of the Council of Europe, and in particular, I would like to remind Tim Goodyear, who recently passed away, unfortunately, and I had the privilege and the honor to cooperate with him and with Brian North and Enrica Piccardo at the development of the new companion volume of the Common European Framework of Reference, CFR-CV, which is the new acronym, in particular for the dimension, the descriptor of the online interaction, which is one of the latest, one of the new descriptors of the companion volume. And I had the honor to cooperate with the group since the beginning, when this online interaction descriptor was being developed and investigated through the different through the consultations with the different stakeholders. But before going into details of our presentation, I would like to ask you to take your mobile phone. So I would like to just make this webinar a little interactive as possible. I would like to ask you to take your mobile phone and go to this website, which is www.menti.com. www.menti.com, and then a code will be required, and you will insert this code 8343990. And then there are 3 fields to fill in about your idea of mediation in 3 words. So just your idea, what you think when you talk about mediation. What is mediation for you? Just 3 words. That could be 3 adjectives, 3 words, anything, any idea that is just in your mind when you talk about mediation. I think, thank you very much. So there's someone breaking the ice. Maybe you are familiar with this tool, which is called Mentimeter, and it's a tool which helps collecting idea and it's a sort of brainstorming of different inputs as you are doing now. So just trying to build together, co-construct, which somehow can be considered a part of mediation itself, because we are co-constructing this sort of tag cloud. It's called tag cloud. It's a cloud of tags, a cloud of words that is just changing and reshaping according to your inputs. In fact, in the biggest word, which is the one in the middle, and as I said, biggest is the most popular word. So is the is the frequencies, the most frequent word in your inputs, in your hits. Thank you for all the participants who are voting. So communication is the key word, is the biggest word. So the association, of course, mediation is communication. Of course, we need to communicate, we need to mediate, we need to use the language that could be oral, that could be written, that could be any so multimodal way of communicating. And of course, the key word is communication. I think that is something that we can all agree on. Then we have translation. Translation is another key word, of course, for mediation, linked to mediation, because we translate, we mediate concepts, we mediate meanings, and that could be from a language into another language, so translating, or could be also within the same language, using different modes, using different channels, different codes, and so on. Then we have facilitating. Of course, facilitating and facilitating understanding, they are quite linked. Of course, we facilitate through mediation. We want to facilitate understanding and mutual understanding, especially in a communication, in an interaction, when we are interacting with an interlocutor. With mediation, we want to facilitate the process, the interaction flow going on. And of course, there's a bridge. A bridge is a very powerful word to be connected to mediation, because actually mediation means building a bridge between or among different poles, and we're going to see a particular definition from the experts. So it's just a bridge that we want to build among different participants, different interlocutors, and also a bridge between or among different sort of texts, different codes. So it's a really helpful, it's a really powerful metaphor. The bridge in mediation is crucial. Then there are so many other interesting inputs. Thank you for all these inputs, like summarizing. Of course, summarizing is another keyword, because when we mediate a text, we summarizing is an aspect. We can ask our students, of course, to summarize. That means that they understood, of course, the text, and they are reshaping the text, summarizing the main content according to their point of view, according to what they understood, of course. Then we have interaction, of course, interaction is quite relevant. Cooperation. Cooperation is another another keyword, a very important keyword. As we will see, cooperation is fundamental because as Grice, one of the famous linguists, said when he defined the cooperation principles, the principle for cooperation, ideally the starting point in an interaction, in a conversation, is cooperation. So we try to cooperate just from the beginning. Of course, conflicts may occur when we break these rules that Grice mentioned, which are, of course, in interaction, implied interaction. But originally, the conversation, the communication process starts with the idea of cooperating with an interlocutor, and that's why we use mediation. We try to facilitate, we try to let this process, this flow go smoothly. Then we have support, helping, then we have, so help is another, in helping and help. Of course, that's a part of our mission, of our job as educators, as teachers, to help our students develop mediation skills, and so try to apply these mediation skills in, of course, in the different modes of communication, in the different text, oral, written, online, and so on. Well, I can see, yes, explanation, interpreting, which is of course linked to translating, and is another important keyword. So as you can see, the biggest words are the most frequent words where you recognize yourself as a sort of community. We are now a community of practice within this webinar, sharing same interest, and we can say that, you know, these words are really relevant, keywords which are really relevant to the topic of our conversation today, which is mediation. So thank you very much. I would like to, focus on, during my presentation now, I will, of course, come back to all this, or most of these words, which are, of course, perfectly in line with the topic. What I would like to do also is to give you, as much as possible, to give you some practical examples related to, in particular, to web tools, to technologies. So using technologies, using web tools, both in remote teaching, which is remote or hybrid teaching, which is of course, the highlight for this period due to COVID-19 emergency. All over the world, we experienced, and we are experiencing, examples of remote or maybe hybrid teaching and learning with the use of technologies. So technologies can help, but not only during, of course, remote teaching, but also in face-to-face activities. I would like to focus on some examples of tools that can help you foster mediation in the EFL class. Now I would like to go back to my slides, and thank you again to all the participants who provided their inputs. Thank you so much. That's what we've been doing. Yes, so mediation, and here is the definition from experts at the Council of Europe, reducing the distance between two poles. So this is just the bridge that we were talking about. So it's just reducing the distance, trying to cooperate, try to just two poles. That could be two interlocutors, but that could be two forms of text, that could be two modes of communication. So it's just the idea of bridge, which is really relevant. Once again, Norton Picardo from the Council of Europe, mediation concerns the facilitation of the communication itself, and or the reformulation of a text, the reconstruction of the meaning of a message. So it's just this process of manipulation, of co-construction of the meaning, which is of course part of facilitation, part of mediation process. And this is the latest version of the Common European Framework. So as you all know, it was published the first, the original version in 2001 by the Council of Europe. Then there was the need to integrate it, to revisit it, to because since 2001 a lot of changes occurred in our society, in the knowledge society, and so consider the 21st century skills, consider the digital dimension, and so on. That's why the Council of Europe decided to launch a very ambitious consultation and with a wide range of stakeholders in order to understand the topics, the dimensions, and so the descriptors that needed to be added according to the new, characteristic, the new features of society, of our 21st century learners, of our screenagers, for example, and our students, which are always exposed to a screen, and so on. And so in 2018, there was a provisional version of the companion volume. And now just in April 2020, the final version of the new CFR CV, which is the Common European Framework for Reference companion volume. So when you find this acronym, means the new version of the Common European Framework, which is, of course, the companion volume, which with new descriptors, with new dimensions, and online interaction is one of them. I'm going to focus on it in deeper later on, which is the one I was, as I said, I was involved with the group of the Council of Europe. So the four modes of communication and the skills that we're used to, listening, reading, speaking, writing, were not enough. We need to have a broader, wider idea of what our students as learners, as speakers, as participants, and interlocutors need to do with the language. And so the four modes of communication is an umbrella way to design, to conceive, language competencies. So we have reception, which is, the passive, let's say, skills like comprehension in listening, reading. Production, which is the active, of course, part of the process. So formulating something new to say, to write, so always speaking, writing. And consider that there's always a new dimension in the CFR CV, which is the online. So not only reading, writing, not only speaking, writing, but also online writing, online interacting, because of course the online, the digital dimension is so crucial, especially nowadays during this period of remote teaching and learning. Then interaction, so engaging in conversation or written exchanges, that could be also once again online interaction. And then mediation, adjusting the message, so it's just co-constructing and facilitating, which is the one of the mode of communication. So I like this this graph very much, and I borrowed it from Enrica Piccardo, from Brian Norris. But it's available online as well, because they presented it in a different context, which is a real effective, as you can see the reception, production, interaction, and mediation, but also the new idea of the speaker, of the learner, of the interlocutor as a social agent. This is the new idea, which is linked to the action-oriented approach by Brian Note and Enrica Piccardo, considering the speaker as a social agent. A social agent means that the speaker is not isolated, is always immersed in a context, and we need to consider this context. We need to consider all the different situations, the different, and also the resources that, so mobilizing general and plurilingual, pluricultural competencies. So every interlocutor, every speaker, and every learner will use all his or her own resources and competencies that could be verbal, non-verbal, that could be body language, that could be so anything of resource in order to communicate, to co-construct meaning, and to interact with the interlocutor. So as you see, complexity is really a key word here. And this is the conceptual model of mediation by the defined by, once again, by the Enrica Piccardo, Brian North, by the group, the Council of Europe. As you can see, is a holistic approach. I really like this image because it's a holistic approach considering the speaker from all the different perspectives, different angles. You can see emotional. So of course we need we are always involved emotionally. And of course, cognitive, because all our cognitive processes, all our thinking skills are activated during a mediation activity. Consider the lower order thinking skills and the higher order thinking skills according to Bloom taxonomy. So according to the specific challenge implied in an activity, we activate certain thinking skills that could be lower order thinking skills, or LUTs, or higher order thinking skills, so HOTS, so that could be more demanding. Then, of course, we mediate across worlds. Consider, for example, the literature. When we approach a literature text, we mediate between our world and the world we travel to, thanks to the that could be a poem, that could be a literary text, a book, and so on. Then we mediate across media, so online, as I was saying, because we can, especially in this period, we mediate our messages, our intentions. We convey them through the different online channels. That could be a platform, that could be some specific tools, that could be just a smartphone. So we need to facilitate this communication through some certain channels that could be digital ones. And then relational, because of course we communicate with other people. We enter into the other's self, let's say. So we need to somehow reach not only in terms of communication, but also from this holistic perspective. So also impacting the emotional side, and this is important in order to establish a true, authentic, and meaningful communication among different interlocutors. Of course, across languages and cultures, when we translate from one language into another, we bring with ourselves the new, the two different cultures which are behind the different languages. And of course, when we communicate with people from other countries, we necessarily need to consider their culture too. And that's why plurilingual and pluricultural repertoire are important in the CFR CV as part of the general communicative repertoire of a speaker and, of course, of a learner. So mediation is interplay of languages, hybrid practice of languaging, like translanguaging. This is something, translanguaging is a concept that I really like, which is a way, a very effective way to mediate, is an example of mediation, because when we use translanguaging, we switch from L1, L2, L3, or what else, second language, foreign languages, is a very wide idea of language as language awareness, which is something that goes beyond the different borders among languages, among L1, L2. We just can reshape our communication mode according to the interlocutor, according to the situation. So the important thing is to let the message go, to mediate the message. So if necessary, I can use my L1, but for some parts of the communication, I switch to the L2, because I understand that my interlocutor won't catch the meaning in that particular moment, and so on. And so all this means that communication and mediation is a social activity, because of course we are all immersed in a situation, in a context that we need to take into account. This is the idea of the action-oriented approach in this latest book by Picardo and North, where there's this idea of the social agent, that is the, this active role of the speaker, conveying meaning with the same language, sometimes from one language to another, and so on. So mediation activities need to aid understanding between people, make things more comprehensible, make connection between ideas and information, and support talking things through to reach new conclusions. So just to negotiate. This is the negotiate is another very important keyword in mediation, because we negotiate, we just facilitate understanding, and somehow we reach consensus. This is the, of course, as I said, conflicts may occur, but the general aim is to co-construct and negotiate new conclusions and so meaning. So the once again, from these experts from the Council of Europe, this, as you could see, the idea of mediation is really wide. Is so difficult to be strict in some specific, pathways, because it's a really broad concept. And in particular, you have the management of interaction, relationship, and even conflicts, and everything pertaining to a reduction of distances between individuals, facilitating encounters and cooperation. So this is the scope of mediation, facilitating cooperation, facilitating relational mediation. And of course, this has to do with the global competencies. You may be familiar with the PISA 2018 framework on global competencies. And just tomorrow, the results will be officially launched by OECD, and we'll have the idea, we'll have the the reports and the feedback on the global competencies framework. So this is of course plurilingualism, plurilingual and pluricultural repertoire, translanguaging, identity, all the concepts that are so linked to mediation can really help foster global competencies in our students. So the idea to get out of their comfort zone, of their individual perspective, in order to understand the point of view of the others. And so intercultural dialogue and global issues, of course, mediation has a lot to do with all these concepts. According to Nord and Picardo, so these are the four forms of mediation that we've been already talking about. So linguistic, social, cultural, pedagogic, because of course, when we foster mediation at school, in our class, in our EFL class, in our foreign languages classes, means that we are also working, of course, in education, fostering educational processes and pedagogic, issues like cooperation, like collaboration, and so on. So now going to the scale and to this wonderful graph, which includes all the different of the world of mediation, is taken, of course, from CFR CV. We have mediation activities and mediation strategies, and I'm going now to further analyze in details each of them. This is the overall scale. The overall mediation, as you know, in the CFR CV, we have, first of all, as a new thing, we have the pre-A1 level. There are no descriptors available for the scales because it's a really basic, of course, level, and it's so difficult at this level to mediate. But this is important because in the CFR 2001, all the scales started from A1. So considering young learners, considering very young learners, is a highlight of the CFR CV. So here, the overall mediation, of course, you can read all this in details because it's downloadable from the internet, and you can see that in the development of the competence through the scale, this process of mediation goes in deeper, and of course involving more and more cooperation. If you can have just look very quickly, when you are to be one, can collaborate, can work collaboratively, can establish a supportive environment for sharing ideas, facilitate discussion, and so on. And then when we are to C1 and C2, you are a real mediator, can mediate effectively and naturally, and so on. Always trying to avoid misunderstandings, trying to build on different contributions to a discussion. So it's more and more aware, language and conversation, interaction awareness that is more and more developed. So now let's go in details. Let's analyze some mediation activities. Mediating a text involves passing on to another person the content of a text to which they do not have access, often because of linguistic, cultural, semantic, or technical barriers. So mediating a text that could be not necessarily written text. Text is a very wide linguistic concept, because text means just a piece of communication that could be oral, that could be so in a conversation, that could be written, that could be digital. So it's just a piece of communication. So we mediate a text when we want to facilitate understanding of the content, trying to avoid any obstacles, any barriers that could be different origin, like linguistic, cultural, semantic, or technical. Here is the mediating a text, different examples of activities, mediation activities that we could suggest, we could deliver, organize in our classes to help our students mediate a text. As you can see, we are relaying specific information, explaining data. When we talk about mediating text, we also talk about infographics, for example, about visual organizer, because sometimes to mediate a text is easier to have it in the shape of a graph, for example, in the shape of a diagram, of a timeline. So is a way to manipulate the text and render it in another channel, in another code, in another way. So that could be also visual, that could be an image, a picture, a graph, and so on. Of course, translating, then note-taking. Note-taking is a very important activity that we should foster, and I'm sure you all do that, because our students, when take notes during a speech, a lecture, a video, or what else that could be, or just an audio file, it means that they are focused. They are trying to mediate that text. They are trying to catch the best, the core. That could be subjective, of course, depending on maybe their feelings, their understanding, their level of competence in the language, and so on. But it's for sure a very important activity to be fostered. And then expressing a personal response to creative text, analyze creative text. So this involves, of course, an active process, an active reactive process from the student towards a text. So some examples, as I was saying, I would like to suggest some tools that can help you. I'm sure that you all do all the activities that are implied in mediating a text, but I would like to suggest some tools that, especially now during remote teaching and learning period, could be, but also hybrid, also face-to-face, could be helpful. This inventory, this project is called ICT Rev, and it's a process, it's an inventory, and it's the output of a European project of the CML, the European Center of Modern Languages, in cooperation with the European Commission, which collects a lot of tools, a lot of repositories, and it's really, really helpful, because what you do is to use the filters you can see now in the gray box, where you have like speaking, listening, writing, vocabulary, individual work, presenting, group work. So you can select your aims, your learning aims, and then the platform will give you some suggestions about possible tools, about possible repositories that you can use to foster that particular skills, that particular aims that you have in mind with your students. I'm going quickly through some other examples of tools that can help you manipulate text, like text-to-speech. This is a way to manipulate somehow, because when the student has to read text, and a tool like this will convert it into a written text, or the opposite, from the written text into an oral text, is a way to manipulate, and also using multiple intelligence according to Gadden's theory. So for someone it would be easy reading and writing, for someone else would be easier just listening. So it's a way to mediate text. Then some other ways are repository like TED-Ed, where you can find videos, you can find speeches from different people, famous people, but also common people. And once again, you can use these videos for, of course, for your lessons, for your activities, but you also can manipulate, can have your student mediate the content of the speech through different activities, like true, false, like different statements, like different discussion forums, for example. So you can, within the web tool itself, within the repository, you can activate your students' skills starting from a speech through the form of a video. Then going into details about grammar, Grammarly, you probably know it, will help them, of course, in a formative perspective to self-correct. And so it's a way, of course, to be used not for test, but just for as a formative self-check. Will help highlight specific weaknesses on different grammar areas. And this is something that I like so much, Rewordify. Rewordify is just for simplifying a text. mediating a text means also facilitate it, means rewording it. And this web tool is really fantastic because students can put the text, and then they will have onto a form, and then they will have suggestions in different colors with easier words, easier expressions, so that they can better understand the text, and then maybe they can reconstruct the text using those easier easier words, but of course it's a starting point for further activities. Ludwig Guru is another very, very useful tool where they're all free. These tools are all free. Once again, the text is manipulated, and the web tool will provide with suggestions according to the context. There's a corpus linguistic, a corpus behind this web tool. So according to the corpus, and the text which is inserted in the form, it will suggest possible interpretation, comparison, translation, paraphrase, comparing, ordering, and so on, which is a way, of course, to manipulate and facilitate and rewordify and simplify a text. Marking Mate is another, I'm sorry, I'm going very, very quick, but of course I'm going to share all the slides, and then you can go in details and further investigate each of these tools. Here is once again for text, manipulating text, and the tool will give suggestions on how to improve the text. In this case, is the aim is to self-correct, just to give suggestions for improving different grammar areas, morphosyntactic areas, and of course academic language. Evernote for note-taking. We were talking about note-taking. Evernote is a wonderful tool that I would really suggest my students, because as you can see, you can put image. This is an image that I particularly like that Pearson launched for the World Teachers Day. You can upload an image, you can upload file, attach files, and have your students take notes on the different, also in audio files as well, and you can share, they can share these notes with some other friends, so also collaborative, in a collaborative perspective. Translating, there are hundreds of tools. This is one of my favorite, dpol.com, where you can translate entire files. Now there's a possibility to translate files, and of course the human brain is always needed for adjusting, and but there are so many tools which are really helpful for translating, and of course they could be used with our students in for some certain activities, because there was a period where translation was abolished, but now we are in the post method area, where we use all the different methods that can be useful for language learning, and translating can be part of it, of course. Once again, mediation of text from audio to reading. Here we have listening and reading with the audiobooks. It's just an example, but there are so many where you can have access to stories and books and novels, and read. So you can read, the students can read, but can also listen, is in a way of storytelling, and their audiobooks. So once again, facilitating the understanding, because the same text can be read and also listened to. Mediating concepts. When you mediate concept, we want to construct and co-construct and elaborate meaning. I'm going quite quick. So here we have mediating concepts. Here the collaborative dimension is crucial. So you have collaborating in a group, leading group work, managing interaction, facilitating collaborative interaction with peers. So it's just this co-construction of meaning, co-construction, so making meaning together during an interaction. And I may suggest some tools for collaborative activities like Etherpad. This is really nice. Well, of course, you have Google Docs, you have all the different ways. This is a different tool where the students can collaborate, can write together on a document, can make a project or what else, co-constructing the output in writing, in a written text and in different colors. And you have the story, of course, also the you can track the contributions from each student, so you can have an idea of who wrote what, and they can interact in writing, they can comment each other, and is a way to work together in writing. And when we talk about cooperation, collaboration on some certain projects, of course, we have eTwinning, Erasmus+, which are all the European projects, international projects involving schools from different countries, and their students cooperate on certain projects. Pen Pals Schools is this website which is global, and schools can have access, but also single students can, and also with the parents. That's a new thing that due to COVID-19 is the new profile for parents to help to guide their students, their children. They can work together with friends, peers from all over the world on some certain projects that they can select. They can select the topics and then do different activities, interact with their peers in other countries, and produce together an output. That could be a poster, that could be postcards, that could be text, that could be different sort of outputs. So as far as the tools, so all these tools that I'm mentioning, and of course I'm not exhaustive, they are just examples because the web is full of tools, of resources. I'm proud to announce this handy little guide to distant teaching, published by Pearson, that is just forthcoming. It's going to be, it's in English, so it's going global just in the next few days, and is and a little guide where I suggest different web tools and different also pedagogic hints, so methodological suggestions on how to organize distance teaching and learning. And of course, for mediation, this could be a valid support. And of course, I would like to thank Pearson again for this opportunity. Mediating communication. Here we have the pluricultural space and the facilitating communication in delicate situation and disagreement. This is something that I'm particularly keen on, and I would like to suggest it as a possible activity to foster, to organize with the students, debate. Debate is a teaching strategy that is so powerful in language learning, in EFL class, in a language class, because you can have students debate on certain claims, so in favor and against, according to some specific protocols, and so on, and they need to defend their ideas, but also respect certain rules. And sometimes in some certain formats, they need to negotiate a third way, a third position that could match somehow the two sides, because debate is a very flexible concept that can have different declinations, different applications, but it's a very effective way to have our students exercise their thinking skills and their public speaking, their argumentation skills. E-debate, so debate in written, so we can say text as an oral debate, but also written debate. So there are tools like e-debate and Chialo where students can, and you find these tools in the End a Little Guide, and in another End a Little Guide to debate that is just once again published by Pearson, and once again forthcoming in the next few days, where I provide with suggestions on how to debate, how to organize debate, both orally and in writing, in remote teaching and learning, to foster thinking and debating skills in our students. Going quite quick towards the mediation strategies. Here we have strategies to explain a new concept, strategies to simplify a text, linking to previous knowledge, adapting language, breaking down complicated information. So amplifying a dense text, streamlining a text. This is something that has to do to general the strategies that we actually used in the mediation activities, of course, because when we wanted to simplify a text, like using a tool like Rewordify, for example, that's one that I suggested, you are, of course, you are implementing mediation strategies. So here is the area covering all the strategies that we as teachers, as educators, plan in order to, of course, foster mediation. And in particular here, I would like to suggest this wonderful world of thinking routines and protocols by Project Zero, the group of researchers of Harvard Graduate School of Education, which is the group of our garden. I had the privilege to cooperate with them on a project in my institute in Indire. These thinking routines and also the protocols that are part of the Project Zero framework are very, very useful, because they can help facilitate and organize, first of all, thinking skills according to certain specific pathway. Here you can also find some apps, some suggestions, some technology if you want to apply to implement this with the digital tools. And these are also protocols, for example, can help. Project Zero protocols can guide our students in the process of understanding, because there are certain rules, certain steps. This is the idea, and also certain times. So rules are, of course, are flexible. You can adapt to your class, but I strongly recommend you have a look at the Project Zero visible thinking framework. And Pearson also published an End a Little Guide to Thinking Routines. You can have a look at the different suggestions that you can adapt and adopt in your class, and they can really help you, for example, summarizing a text, understand a text, maybe start a conversation according to starting from a text according to certain inputs, to certain routes, and so on. That can really they are, let's say, a big repository of mediation strategies that could be helpful in our class. Just a few words about the online interaction project that I mentioned at the beginning. As you can see, this is the publication. Unfortunately, it is in Italian. Sorry, is available now on our website, on Indire website, but it's in Italian. But there's Team Gaudier and Enrica Piccardo contribution, introduction in English. So we had the privilege to have a team as well. And it's this publication, this volume collects the different activities that we experimented with our schools in Italy. It was a pilot project on online interaction with some schools, and so there are some examples, some screenshots where you have examples of activities that teachers suggested their students using online online using digital devices and digital tools to have students communicate, interact online in English. So I'm very proud. We started, with this, and now we also launched a survey on online interaction in cooperation with Brian North and Luca Piccardo, and we are now analyzing the data from this survey. So this is my email. I thank you so much. I thank Pearson for this opportunity. And of course, if there are questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Letizia. So if you do have questions, please put them in the chat, or the questions and answers. We only have a couple of minutes, so let's see if we can answer them. Some questions have been asked about certificates, by the way. We will be sending out certificates. It comes from a system, and it can take up to 2 weeks. So you should be receiving one. Well, it looks like there's a lot of thanks in the chat. I don't know if you can see that, Letizia, but
sorry, I went a little bit long, maybe long.
No, I think you probably answered all the questions people had. Okay. And yes, the recording will be available on the mediation website page of our website, and I'm just about to paste that into the chat so you can see it. I'm just checking what the page is.
I see a lot of people, different countries, Poland, and also some Italian friends. So happy to see some Italian teachers. Where Croatia, Spain is so exciting to see so many places. Moscow, Russia as well.
Yes, somebody's already remarked it's quite geographically spread, where we have people from.
Donatella as well. So hello, Donatella Fitzgerald from Pearson, Italy. That is my angel. So happy to see her as well.
Well, just to plug Letizia's next webinar, which is this time next week, and it will be on assessing mediation, so rather than teaching it. So with that, I'll thank you very much for Letizia for presenting so comprehensively on mediation, and thank you to the audience for coming to listen to us today. And so with that, I'll say goodbye.
Goodbye, and thank you all.